Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm excited to share with everybody a story I have about a KISS collectible I owned as a child and my journey to try to relocate the exact item that I owned and reacquire it. Joining me on this episode will be Jason Herndon from KISS My Kollectibles, as well as Vincent LaRussa. We'll talk about the collectibles that we have in our collection, not only KISS, but anything related to pop culture in the 70s and 80s. If you guys love pop culture, I guarantee you're going to love hearing all the stories that we share on this episode. We look forward to hearing all of your comments and thoughts, as well as what items that you hold near and dear to your hearts as you've gone older. I guess without further ado, let's jump in and get started about our conversation on collecting KISS, as well as any other pop culture items from the 70s and 80s. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I am very excited to have with me not one, but two very distinguished guests with me. First, I have the chemist, Mr. Vincent LaRussa. How you doing, buddy?
I'm still getting used to that name.
Yes, yes, you're going to be the chemist now.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me once again.
Absolutely. And for the first time on my show, you guys know him from KISS My Kollectibles. Jason Herndon, how you doing, Jason?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me. This is going to be fun.
No, I'm really excited that you were able to join, and I'll save the big story for the end of the episode, right? But one of the reasons I wanted to get us all together is, I've been, over the last 5 years, maybe 10 years, selling off a lot of my KISS collectibles, right? And the reason I was doing that, right, let me get the guy from KISS My Kollectibles on and tell him I'm selling my collectibles.
It'll be me at some point, I'm sure. So.
All right. Well, for me, I started saying as I got older that I wanted to collect memories. And doing so, I bought a lot of guitars from Gene Simmons and from Paul Stanley. And I couldn't afford them. So I sold off all the stuff collecting dust on my shelves. And in the process, I sold off stuff from my childhood. And the last couple of years, ooh, I regret that. So we're going to pause that story because Jason actually helped me, and his website helped me get a really cool piece back, right? And I'll save that for the end. But as I'm thinking about all of this, I'm like, it'd kind of be cool to get the three of us together. Jason, who helped me get the piece, Vincent, who's been on my show a number of times, and kind of talk about, to me, stuff that's cool, that's, thinking back to our childhoods and what stuff meant a lot to us, or what stuff do we kind of hold near and dear all these years later. We're all a little bit different in age. Jason, you're a couple years younger than us, so it's kind of cool. We don't know what we're going to all show. So that's the cool part to me, is I'm kind of excited. Even Vin, I know you and I talk all the time. I have no clue what you have in store for me. So it'll be kind of cool to kind of talk about that and reminisce. So I'll just start off, and maybe Jason, I'll ask you first. As a kid, were you into collecting? Oh no, I have to talk on a podcast. I've never done that.
Yeah. I've never done this before.
Yeah. As a kid, were you collecting stuff, or what age did you start getting into collecting?
Well, I would say the answer to that is yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got into KISS at a very, very young age, mm-hmm. And so probably around 1979-ish or something like that.
Okay.
I was like 4 or 5 years old, And so I was pretty much, I wasn't buying anything, obviously. I didn't have any money, but my parents were buying. I was an only child, so we weren't rich, but I did get a lot of, bargain bin stuff. Most of that KISS stuff was in bargain bins. So, they were buying me, the records, and I was quickly catching up to collecting the records. But of course, when I was getting the records, I was looking in the inserts, and I was seeing all of the memorabilia. I specifically remember sending in the double platinum order form to order some things with a check, in like 1980. And it came back returned to sender.
Oh.
So yeah, but I like the first thing I got was the rub and play kit, and so that really started my.
That really sounds bad. Rub and play. I guess they weren't thinking back then.
Those little pieces is what really started me like having the desire to collect stuff. And then from there, it went into toys and stuff. So we'll get into that.
Absolutely. Now, Vin, what about you? I think from how long we know each other, you collected a lot more instruments than everything. But I think you have other things that you enjoy as well. So what about you?
Well, my earliest memories of collecting was actually baseball cards, and football cards, and hockey cards. You remember?
Yeah, time out. He used to steal my baseball cards for the record. All right, continue. That's right. I forgot about
you thief.
Yes.
But one of the memories I have as a kid, and Mike, you remember when we were in PS 163, we would have our lunch break, and we would be you do the flip cards, and you'd try to match the colors.
Yep.
And if you got the color, whatever, you took that deck of cards.
Yep.
So I would come to school with like a stack of cards in my pocket, and you were trying to acquire legally at first, cards without stealing. But that's like kind of my first memory of collecting something at maybe 6 or 7 years old.
Sure.
Was definitely into sports and whatnot, and this was like a cool thing. You wanted to get that. For us, living in New York, a Reggie Jackson card,
right.
That was like the big, deal. Or you got the cards that said All-Star, that was really cool back then.
Yep.
So that's my earliest memories, non-KISS related, of collecting something.
Right.
So.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I thought it would be a good idea if each one of us kind of takes a little bit of a chance to share some of the stuff from our memories. It could be KISS related. It could be non-KISS related. It'll be interesting to see, like, if I show something, you guys are like, what the hell is that? Now, I don't think that'll happen here, but I'm really curious to see kind of what things you guys have from your childhood and what you guys remember. So, Jason, maybe you could kind of start us off a little bit, show a couple of items that you have from your childhood. I'm really excited about this.
Sure. Well,
nothing rub and play, though, please.
Nothing. Yeah, if you start rubbing and playing, we're out of here.
Let me show you how this works. No, so when I was going around and I was picking up things earlier today, I was kind of doing it in kind of chronological order. I was like, what's some of the earlier pieces, and then, so as Mike said, we're a little different in age. I think you guys are around 50 or a little bit 51. I'm 45, so they've got 5 years on me. So I kind of wish I would have been 50 years old, because that would have meant that I would have caught KISS in the 70s a little bit more and remembered it. But
I'll ask you that again when I'm 70 and you're not. So
right. So, but my KISS really starts in like 1980. I really have memories of Unmasked and all of that, and getting it around, that year.
Absolutely.
But so I would usually save this one for last, because this is usually the one that everybody goes crazy on. And if you've ever watched my show, you two guys, you've probably seen this. But Mike, you got a lot of viewers that probably don't watch my show, so I'll show this.
Yes, and anybody who watches my show and doesn't watch his, you should, because it's really, if you're into KISS Collectibles,
Absolutely.
It's the #1 show out there.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
So I still have, now I have like 600, between 500 and 600 pieces of KISS vinyl over here, okay? And it's a disease, man.
And that's why I didn't bring out my collection.
Well, look behind you. You've got tons of records, man.
Exactly.
So,
I do.
But anyway, I do still have my very first KISS record that I ever got on my 4th or probably Christmas. My
Nice.
birthday's December the 27th, but
Okay.
somewhere in there. I turned 4, and my parents got me this, probably not to play, but to look at, because I was kind of making a big deal out of what they looked like. And so I've had it all these years. All the other records that I had back then have long been gone, but somehow I still hung on to this. But this is what it looks like. And back then I wrote on records. So check that baby out.
Oh, wow. Near mint, right? That's near mint condition?
Mint, yeah. I think my mom wrote my name on it here somewhere, but it's got a Miss Pac-Man sticker on the back of it. I think I tried to put it in a yard sale at one time.
Ooh.
It says for sale. It didn't sell, so I still have it. But so this is this is what started the whole KISS obsession for me.
That is
this
awesome.
particular record. Actually, I don't even have the original vinyl that's in it anymore. It's long broke, but I still have the
You have
jacket.
the jacket.
And,
Wait, it was kept in such pristine condition. How could that be?
no. But even over.
Oh, look, it's a gatefold even.
I'm-
Wow,
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
gatefold.
Oh, look at that.
and stuck stuff inside of it. But anyway,
That is
as
cool.
far as talking about things that take me back to my childhood, there's nothing that takes me back to my childhood more than this record.
Of course, absolutely.
Incredible memories with it. So that's the first thing that I brought to show.
That is.
So you want me to do something else?
Yeah, go ahead. Come on, hit us with something else.
Well, like I said earlier, I moved into, so I was a kid growing up in the early 80s, and the toys and cartoons, or the cartoons and then toys that were big at the time. So you guys had Star Wars
Yes.
in the 70s. I had He-Man and Voltron
Mhm.
and Transform. And
Like my brother.
Yep, like my brother. Exactly.
Yeah.
As far as those kind of childhood memories outside of music, some of the things that I have, and this isn't original. I wish it was. I'll buy an original one at some point. But here's one of my complete Voltrons.
Okay,
If
yes.
you don't know who this is Voltron, Defender of the Universe. These things come apart into lions.
Okay.
And I used to run home every day, and Voltron came on at 3, and He-Man came on at 3:30, and that's what I did. I watched these cartoons, and my parents bought me Voltron for Christmas, and it was probably 1985 or something like that. I think it's the Matchbox versions of it. It originally came out in 1980 in Japan.
Okay.
But when they adapted it over here to the United States, and Matchbox started making the actual Voltron, I think that was probably 85 when that happened. So
that is very. Now I remember Voltron. I'm trying to remember if my brother had Voltron. Did your brother have Voltron stuff, Finn? Because I remember He-Man. So. Right, you're saying He-Man.
My brother definitely had the He-Man stuff. My brother was definitely into all the wrestling figures and all that stuff when the mid '80s. Stuff. He had all that stuff. I remember.
So Voltron and He-Man were the same time, Jason, roughly.
He-Man would have been 81.
Okay.
82, 83, 84, 45 there as far as the toy line goes. It actually went all the way up to 89. Yeah. But the glory years of He-Man was when the cartoon hit in 1983, I think it was. And it ran for 3 seasons, I think.
Right.
They put out the toys first, and then they adapted a cartoon to it. So right there in about 83, 84 is when He-Man was huge, and then Voltron was right behind it.
That's cool.
But I used to have a huge He-Man collection.
Really? Well, you sound like it.
Huge He-Man collection. Not my kids' collection. I actually had to give that away to my cousin as I got older. But as I graduated and went to college and got a job, I started buying He-Man figures again, and those things are expensive now. If you find those things on the card, like the original He-Man on the card, it's a $5,000 or $6,000 toy.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and like a C8, C9 condition, it's unbelievable. I mean, but so I sold all of that off to get married to my first wife, like an idiot, and I haven't rebought any of that He-Man stuff.
Oh no!
But I did buy these incredible books.
Okay.
That's made by this company called Dark Horse Comics. Basically, they went and did this is a character guide.
Right.
And this I don't know if I can show it, but it is a massive, massive book. So you've got a character guide, and then a guide to the artwork of He-Man.
Oh wow!
A guide to the comic strips of He-Man. And then I don't know if y'all remember, since y'all probably weren't buying them, but each He-Man figure come with a little comic in the back inside of it.
I do remember that. Yes. And
they put out a compendium that has every one of those in it. So this little Dark Horse company, so cool. I'd buy each one of these.
That is so. I mean, my brother was the one getting the He-Man toys at that point, but I remember when he had the Skeletor toy. I thought that was cool as anything. I must have been like 12 or 13 at the time, and I was like, that's a damn cool toy.
That's a cool. They were cool toys, and I was always, a bigger fan of the evil side, the Skeletor side. Trapjaw, Merman, Beastman, Evil Lynn, all of the evil side of it. That's what I like the most. So.
That is very cool.
So there's some of my stuff.
That is cool.
For many years, I shared the bedroom with my brother. Castle Grayskull used to adorn the floor.
Yeah, buddy.
And my brother used to open it up, and I remember. And I was thinking kind of the same thing as what Mike said. I was like, I know I'm too old for this toy, but damn, I wish I could play with that toy. And every once in a while, my brother would do stuff, even though I'm 6 years older than him. But I thought it was like the coolest stuff, man. That stuff was really cool.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really, really, really enjoyed it, and it really. I'm a super nostalgic guy. Like I've got a friend of mine that I've known since the 7th grade that we text back and forth all the time. And we're just constantly reminiscing and also constantly talking about our impending doom. like, hey,
sounds very familiar.
I was going to say, it gets worse, Jason, as you get older. Trust me.
Yeah. Like, this record is 30 years old. That's the same amount of time as when it was 1990 that the Beatles record was, 30 years old. And we're like, oh my God, kill me now. But anyway, I hold on to those. I have a really, really hard time letting things go. I'm an only child. Both of my parents have passed. I have no siblings. So it really is ingrained in me to be a collector.
Right.
Because I just want to hang on to my childhood.
Yeah.
So when you asked me to do this particular episode, it's like, oh, yeah, I want to talk about that. So.
Right. And Jason, it's funny because Vin and I started with those kind of conversations early 40s, really. And it's ramped up, especially the last 5 years or so. And like we said at the start of this, him and I have been friends since we were 5 years old, but we actually just went to different schools and kind of went apart for a small period of time, right? And we've tried to narrow down literally what is the day that we became friends again, right?
Oh, wow.
like that's how, like when you talk about like reminiscing about your childhood, and we've narrowed it down. We knew I went to see KISS in November of '84, and we weren't really talking much at that time. And we know we were talking when Live Aid happened in July of '85. So we narrowed it down to like a 5 or 6 month window. And we started looking at album releases then. And we're like, well, what were we talking when this album came out? What were we talking with that?
That's awesome.
And we were able to narrow it down to within like a 2 month period or whatever when we started hanging out and talking for a second time. So I totally get that with your friend.
That's
totally.
close enough. Yeah, that's close enough.
Not for me, it's not close enough. I want to know the day.
Oh, you want to know the day?
I
want to know the day.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I've gone crazy in the last 4 or 5 years. This is nuts. I started, it's now up to about 20,000 lines, a spreadsheet of my life, I call it. And it goes day by day, anything I remember or anything I have documentation that I did on that day.
Serious?
Yes. Yep. And I've got probably a couple of thousand lines filled out right now.
That is incredible.
Well, it's stupid. Come on, it's stupid.
I don't think so.
It's incredible,
Yeah.
I mean, I've done stuff like that with like my ticket stubs and remembering concerts and having hundreds and hundreds of lines of concerts and things like that. But line by line, your life.
Yes,
that's interesting. It should make it a book.
I don't think anybody would read it, but I mean,
it's it doesn't. They don't have to know you. It's just kind of a fascinating take.
My daughter said the other day, "Hey, do you know it was 2 years ago today that we would leave?" And she took a job in Disney for 9 months. And I was like, "Yeah, do you know it's 7 years ago today? We were sitting at the kitchen table, and I was buying you Paramore tickets." And she looked at me, she goes, "Really? Really?" I was like, "Yeah, it was 7 years ago today."
Check my spreadsheet.
I checked my spreadsheet, exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
fascinating.
So Vin, do you have stuff that you want to kind of show off?
I have stuff.
Do you have stuff?
Of course, I have stuff.
That's right.
I decided. I do have some KISS stuff from when I was younger, but I figured that would be covered by you guys. So I wanted to go maybe slightly, although. Jason has already showed some great He-Man stuff. So I'm really happy about that. But one of the things I wanted to show from my childhood is one of my earliest memories. And Mike, maybe you remember this. You remember when we were, again, in PS 163, we had shop class?
Yes.
I forgot the teacher's name.
For Jason, PS 163 was our elementary school.
I understand that. Yeah.
Good.
I know how Gene taught. I know.
There you go.
Yes, come on.
So I understand the school, the numbering.
Gene teaches us everything we need to know about life, right? Go ahead, Vin.
So I remember this. Maybe it's on your spreadsheet. The shop teacher who we had. I remember it was a guy. He wore the overalls. He had the beard. I'm expecting you to remember, but of
I don't. No, of course I don't.
But do you remember when we used to go to the shop class? You can build something and whatever.
Yeah.
And so we would start doing that. Anyways, so this is actually a car that I
Oh,
built,
man.
carved by hand.
Carved
And
by
you could
hand.
actually see, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but underneath it has my name that I wrote Vincent L on it.
Okay, yep,
I can
yep, I
see
see
that.
it. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
Nice.
because you'd work on it and then they would go into like a bin and
Uh-huh,
locked up.
uh-huh.
And then next time you'd go in and, like back then they actually let us use like power tools.
Right.
Like we were like
Oh,
7
sure.
years old. You're like, would never happen today. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unsupervised. But yeah, it used to have like little, I guess it was like pipes to be, but they kind of fell off. But this is like a toy that I built and by hand. So this is kind of somehow survived.
Did you cut the
all that
wheels?
time.
Were the wheels pre-cut,
Yeah.
or so you actually?
Yeah, no, I cut.
Nice.
Yeah, it was in some sort of machine. And I remember this part here.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a chisel that you kind of just went
Nice.
along, and even like the scoop down here was all done by hand. Yeah,
That's
it was
impressive.
pretty cool.
That is
So,
impressive.
I don't know what you did at the time. We were in the same class, but kind of feels good that I could one up you and have something that you own of our childhood.
My mom still might have the napkin holder I made. I have to ask her.
Oh, yeah.
I remember making a napkin holder, but I don't remember a car.
Yeah. So that was the first thing. The second thing that is like a big part of my childhood, and in this day and age where everyone had an iPhone or an Android device, back in the day, it was this.
Oh yeah, baby.
This was our Game Boy.
Yes.
This, and one of my favorite games was the Mattel Hockey
Mm-hmm. Yep.
that I loved.
Do you have classic football over there?
I don't know if I have it over here. I have the head-to-head football,
Oh,
which
that's
like
great.
was a
That's
big
great.
deal. You could actually play again. You, Mike, used to have the head-to-head baseball. I remember.
Yes, I did.
Uh-oh.
Yes. So
I think. Oh, okay. So,
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
So Jason, I'll tell you a funny story. So this is mine from my childhood, right?
Oh, wow.
Okay. Still missing the battery cover.
great.
And probably about 10 years ago, I gave this to Vincent because he's, as you see, all into these. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Here, take it. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I said to him, hey, I'm trying to look online. Can you give me any pointers or whatever of what I should look for? I think him and I, like a month later, going to a KISS concert. And he's like, open up my glove compartment. I'm like, okay. And I go in there, right? And this was in there. He's like, you're taking it back. It's yours from your childhood.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, shit. And I remember like the scratches on it or whatever. So yeah, that's mine from my childhood. So thank you,
have
Vin.
the same thing.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's like, this is the way it is always with him. I have to argue with him. I don't feel. He was saying I don't feel right about it. I'm like, you don't feel right about it. This was yours. I'm giving it. I know it's going to mean a lot more to you than to me. I'll find another one. Yeah, I remember when you had it as a kid, and I used to play it. But it belongs back to you. We could always look back and say, oh man, I should have kept this. I should have kept that. And there's a lot of things. I know me and Mike have talked about this all the time about things we wish we still had, or it had much more value. It has much more value to us now than we thought. Like that's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was totally in love with those type of. This was my baseball game,
Fantastic.
and this was cool because you could actually play two players and check it out. I'll probably break it now.
Yeah.
It actually had like if you wanted to play a little further distance from the
cool.
person, it had like it was a remote. It was wired in there.
A wired remote.
But these games were, I mean, having these as a kid was like the coolest thing, and I just loved getting all different. Like if I got the hockey one, I wanted the football, I wanted the baseball.
Sure.
And then just very quickly, fast forwarding a couple of years later.
Hold on before you go, because I think Jason was going to ask something
Well, I
about
was
this.
just going to ask you, are those your original ones from when you were a kid, all of them, or did you, collect them again later on?
I collected them again later on.
Okay.
Unfortunately, most of them didn't survive.
I
think maybe one of them is my original. I think the baseball one, but yeah, they just didn't survive.
Original.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, see, Mike, I had the same one, and who knows what happened
Of
to
course.
it. And then, probably 10 years ago, they reissued those,
Yeah.
and you could go to Walmart and buy the identical one, and I went and rebought it. So I have, I have it in a box over here.
Right, very cool.
And I don't ever play it. I just
course.
wanted to have it.
Yeah.
So,
The thing is with these, I do have the reissues, Jason, but I also want the originals too, because to me it's like even when you buy a KISS record, knowing that sat in the shelves, like for us
Sure.
Corvettes, you know what I mean? It's kind of cool knowing like, okay, this was in Alexander's or something. You know, I know we're talking about our local stores here,
Sure.
but it's kind of cool just knowing that it was there. You know,
Right.
So yeah, I would always love to have the original stuff. I mean, my original stuff, but also getting something knowing it was manufactured in some factory in 1978. You know, that still has value to me.
Absolutely.
But what I want to say is that fast forward a couple of years later, everybody had one of these, you know,
Yes.
Atari, you know, and I wanted Atari so bad, and I begged my dad for a year or two. Oh yeah, we'll get one someday. And then one day he told me, "Oh, I got a new system." I said, "An Atari, right?" He goes, "No." But what'd you get? So
ColecoVision?
that's it. That's right. So
Yes,
when you
got it
saw
right.
when you saw a controller that looked like this,
Look at
like
that.
there was nothing of its time at the time. And here's the ColecoVision.
Love it.
Oh, man.
Right. So and at the time it was a huge deal because they licensed Donkey Kong, which was like one of the biggest you know coin-op games at the time, and this is really what put them on the map.
Yep.
And then to follow it up with one of Mike's favorite as an arcade game, the infamous Space Panic. You remember
Yes.
Mike
Oh,
used to
yes.
get
I love that.
at the pizzeria.
Yes.
And they had titles as Rocky Super Action Boxing. Let me try to get that down
Yep.
there. The Smurf game and
Nice.
Zaxxon.
Zaxxon, I love that.
Yeah. So
I have the
Yeah,
Zaxxon board game. God, I've got a pile of stuff. I should have bought it.
Oh, man.
I'm
Zaxxon.
saying, we could have made this a 5-hour. We could have made
Right.
all this
Exactly.
the episode if I would have gone into. But it was kind of cool because for a brief moment, and I was never cool. But when I got this thing, all the kids wanted to come to my house to play ColecoVision.
Yeah.
And I remember after school saying, "I got a ColecoVision. Oh, can we come over and play?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm cool for once." You know. And we would gather around and play. So that's why I have a very fond memory to this system. Me and my brother logged hours, and
Yeah.
the only problem with the ColecoVision is they would break, and I think we got it serviced like 3 times. They were really not reliable machines, but you know.
Now,
See, I debated on, you know, because I had an Atari in 1980, and it was the Sears version. It wasn't. It was the actual
Telestar, right?
Right.
Telegames.
Yes. Telegames.
I
That's
have,
what it was.
I have
Yep.
one of those. Don't let me go get it. I have it.
Right. So I had one of those, and I was like, well, these guys are probably going to show Atari stuff because that's probably their age bracket. So, and as important as Atari was to me, I was like, I'm going to wait and show something. And you went to Coleco, and I was like, well, I'm just going to bring out my Nintendo.
that's
So here's my 8-bit Nintendo that
Yes.
I spent my lifetime with when I was a kid.
Nice.
And again, all the kids, huh?
Is that your original?
Oh yes, yes.
that is so cool.
That's my original and my original Mario Brothers.
Oh,
Super Mario Brothers.
nice.
You can even see how dirty it is. So,
Make
but,
sure before you, Jason. Oh, you didn't blow in the cartridge. You're supposed to.
no, just for
Yeah.
it works
Like
now.
Texas really did anything. I don't know. And got blown in the cartridge.
So
So
that was that your first home game system, Jason?
No, I had an Atari.
You did, okay.
I had the Sears Atari, and then I got a normal, 2600, and then I got a 7800 in 85 or something like that whenever it came out. But this was what really started the gaming, because those were the kind of the games that came on that were the kind of games that could take you, days or weeks or months to finish. And, and just like Vincent said, all the kids came to my house. I grew up, I'm still in the same town, but I grew up in a very small town with less than 2,000 people in it. And I was one of the first 3 kids that had a Nintendo.
Oh, wow.
And so everybody, because I got it for Christmas of 85, most everybody got it later in 86. But I got it for Christmas of 85, and everybody, all of my friends come to my house to spend the night. And that's all we did was played that damn thing.
Oh, man, that is so cool.
We would go up to our local movie gallery and rent new games.
Right, that's right.
Come on, Dad, give me another $1.25 so we can rent the game for one more night. We're about to beat it, So
Now,
I
Vin,
got to ask you, Jason. No,
Go
can I
ahead.
just ask Jason a question?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, please.
Because he said Atari 7800. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Now I know the history of these systems, and I was a couple of years ago. Like I have a Sega Genesis, I have a Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, GameCube, I have an Intellivision. I mean, I have like pretty much all the relevant systems, but I was debating with getting a 5200 or 7800. First, I got to ask you, do you still have the 7800?
Yes, I still have the 7800.
Okay.
I've never had a 5200. My friend had a
Okay.
5200 though.
So the interesting thing about the 7800 is that it could still play the old Atari games.
Correct.
And
The cartridges
Correct.
look fairly the same. Yes.
right, and unless it was I forgot what they called the cartridge, like a super cartridge. The problem with the 7800 games was it used the sound of the regular 2600 games, because to make it backwards compatible, they would have to make the sound chip, backwards compatible. Unless the sound chip was on the cartridge itself, then
Right.
you get like the more fancy sounds
Right.
of the particular. See all this worthless information, Mike. I do. But so man, you still have your 7800.
I do. I have two 2600s. I still have my Sears Atari. I have the 7800. I have two 8-bit Nintendos, two Super Nintendos, a Sega Master System, a Sega Genesis, a Sega CD.
Oh man.
I have two PlayStation.
I have a Game
2s.
Gear. I have a Game Gear. You have a Game Gear.
I
Sega
have
Game Gear.
I have two Game Gears.
He's got to overshadow me on every game.
No, and see,
I
and
got 5 of these.
but the reason why I had those is because buddies of mine that also had them later on were like, I'm just going to throw this away. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
I'll take it. And I just stuck it in. I have bins
Smart
and
guy.
bins and bins of old vintage consoles and stuff.
So I got to ask the 7800, because I've been debating for all these years. Is it a worthwhile? I mean, anything's worthwhile to have as a collector.
Sure.
But you owning it as a kid, that I'm getting it from a really good perspective, saying, wow. Do you have fond memories of that system?
I have brief memories of that system because I didn't have it long until the Nintendo came out. It was kind of a because the video game crash happened right there in like 1983, 84, right? And it was nothing, and they were given Atari games away for nothing,
Right.
And the 7800 was kind of their, here's our comeback, and then Nintendo just came in and just smashed everything. So it was really limited. I think the library on the system is very limited. Yeah. So to be honest, I don't have a whole lot of classic childhood memories of playing that. It's really more, playing the 2600 and going into the Nintendo that I have the memories of. But it's a great system, and the games that were made specifically for it are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was just that little blip in time. It just wasn't a thing that long. So
Yeah.
You see, Vin, when you said Space Panic as my favorite game, which is true, all right, I have a stand-up arcade game over here. It has about 5,000 games on it. And when I went to buy it, I asked the guy, does it have Space Panic on it? And he looked at me like, what? But do you remember also, I was big on Kaboom for a while. Do you remember that game?
Oh, I love Kaboom.
I love that game. Exactly.
Yeah. And then you had the controls when they would start to get wonky, that the paddle, they would become erratic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a game that you had to, that thing had to be, especially
Precision.
when it was really fast.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Those Activision games were like, they brought that limited system to another level. Like all the Activision, the Pitfall, Chopper Command, I think was another one. And the other thing that was cool about Atari is that even when I owned the Colecovision, I would go over to my cousin's house who had Atari, and I loved playing. I still loved. I wasn't like, I ain't playing that piece of crap. It was still just, to me, just like the system. It was the Atari.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it really started it all. So,
now is the shirt an original, Vin?
Thank God, no.
Close call.
No, it'd be like this.
Oh man,
Mike, we've just talked over you. What do you have to show?
that's not.
Yeah,
nobody's talking over me. Vin, did you have any other items to show?
No, I made sure I kept it to 3. That's my lucky number.
Oh, okay.
I don't have anything else. I do have other items to show, and when we started the show, I was like, shit, I should have really went up into that crawl space. But I said, yeah, maybe we'll do a part 2. If this becomes a successful run,
right.
maybe we'll do another.
That's right. I'll have a whole new podcast, The Game Experience, and we'll just talk about all the
telling
games.
you, we can do it.
It probably would be a lot of fun. No, Jason, did you have other things that you wanted to show still?
Well, I didn't know.
Go ahead, knock yourself out, go crazy.
was just going to say that there were a couple of things that were important kind of in the mid 80s to me and the late 80s, KISS-wise, because as everybody knows, not many people were really collecting KISS in the 80s part of it. Some people were, but most people really weren't.
Agreed.
It wasn't until the late 80s with the advent of the Expos and Pure Arquette and people like that.
Yep.
Frank Cragg.
Yep, exactly.
So really, it was kind of relegated to what you found in the magazine stands and stuff like that. And I just wanted to show they're nothing special or anything, but these two magazines were very, very important to me in the resurgence of my love for collecting KISS, because it had all this vintage plus the the modern stuff in it. So 88, 89, 90, with those magazines and stuff. And
I was just looking at Jason the other day. I have one because I have all those magazines from that era. KISS Guitarist. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do remember that. Actually, I was flipping through my magazines and I was like, which of these 10 were the most important?
Right,
and those really was this one. This I remember just looking at this for and I would have been this. I think this came out in '88 or something like that.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been 12 or something. Nice. So I was like.
Wow. And that's yours that you bought yourself in '88.
I have two of these. I have my original one, and then I bought one that was in much better condition. As you can see, this one's quite worn.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my original one right there.
That is so cool.
But this last thing,
So Jason, if that's quite worn, what's the Destroyer? What
Dead Mint, baby.
What is it? I missed that.
Dead Mint, baby.
Dead Mint. That's great.
I go backwards somewhere. But the last thing I wanted to show was something that's very near and dear to me, and would have probably gotten this somewhere around 1992. And of course, by this point in time, I'm 15 years old or something like that. And I know if you've watched my show, and I know you guys have, there's a buddy of mine named Danny Dabbs, who was a huge KISS collector, and he's quite a bit older than me. He's older than you guys. 50, I think he's 54 or something like that. But somewhere around 92, he started, 92, 93, he started deciding he was going to sell off his collection. And one of the things that he had in his collection that he just gave to me was something that he had made. And I used to look at this thing every single day because Danny made this, and it was his personal thing. But he made this little scrapbook kind of thing. It's got a poster put on in the front of it, but it's just got, he would just cut things out.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
Make pages like that.
When it just came from magazines. Oh,
yeah,
wow,
a lot of magazine stuff like that.
Yeah.
And actually here's a picture of Danny.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. So, and it's just the whole thing. It's just full of random. Actually, let me just do this. It's just full of like these little things, and I would just look at them over and over again. Here's some backstage passes kind of things,
right.
And
that is so awesome.
all of our local newspapers. Every time KISS came to Nashville, all of those are clipped out.
Oh wow, nice.
So like the Creatures show that I went to, my first Creatures show on January 30th, 1983. That all of that is in here somewhere.
That's awesome.
But so he just gave this to me. Pictures that he took when he saw the band. He actually even left some of his ticket stubs in there.
Oh wow.
So, but yeah, I just cherished this thing. Here's a Creatures. This is all Creatures right here.
Yep.
That's Creatures. This is the actual. Here's my actual Creatures ticket stub. It's actually signed by Night Ranger.
Oh, that's cool.
And the ad for the Creature show in Nashville. So anyway, this meant a whole lot to me. And when I sold my collection to Peter Arquette back in 1999, this was one of the only things that I kept and would not part with. So, and I still have this.
I think to me, one of the cool things looking at that is you could see like how meticulous he was with cutting out some of those pictures. It wasn't just like straight all of them. It was like all like around the.
Oh yeah, no, he's like that. He's very, very neat. At probably almost to an OCD kind of level. I don't think.
Sounds like somebody I know, Vin.
Yeah. You look very neat, for sure. So, but yeah, I mean, it was all like that sort of thing. So,
I think I'm literally stunned at this because I can't believe that something that's so personal, to somebody, they would give something like that away. I mean, it's just an incredible thing, like how he was able to disconnect the cord. I mean, it's a great story, I think, and the fact that you cherish it so much to the point where when you sold off a collection, this is one thing you said, I will absolutely not give this away. I mean, it's an incredible story.
It is.
Yeah, he's, I've known Danny 35 years now or something like that, since I was 11. Of course, like I said, he's like, 10, 11 years older than me. So, it sounds kind of weird that I met this, early 20s-year-old when I was 11 or however old we were, I can't remember. But it was, without going into the whole long story, it was kind of, he had a friend who had a grandparent that lived right behind me. And so we kind of knew the family and all that stuff. And when my parents found out that he was a big KISS collector and they met Danny, they were like, okay, you can go over to his house in the next town and just look at all of his KISS stuff, and then we'll come get you, that sort of thing. And he didn't have any other real big KISS friends, So it was, just like me, I had no other friends that were into KISS like this.
Really?
I had a couple friends that liked KISS but nobody that was into them. So we just connected on that level, even though there was that age difference.
Right.
But as we got older and we really became, brothers, that's, I think that's when he started moving on in life at that point from collecting KISS. He was like, you are still into KISS. You're going to enjoy having this, and I know you'll take care of it. And he trusted with it, and I still have it to this day. So it's 30 years later. So.
That, like Vince said, that's an incredible story to me, and it's interesting, like hearing you say like you didn't have a lot of friends at that time who were KISS fans, right? Right. Because, and I guess that's just a couple of years age difference, and it made a big difference in the early '80s where KISS popularity tanked, right? So whereas Vin and I in elementary school, we were just laughing about this yesterday or the day before, we put on a KISS concert in school where we were singing with wiffle ball bats. Okay. So, for us, having KISS fan friends was a little bit more common knowledge, common practice for us to kind of have that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. That's why I said, I don't know if I said it when we started recording or if I said it before we started recording, but I always kind of wished that I was your guys' age because I had a totally different experience with the band and fandom than what guys your age did. And so I missed out on those glory years. And I just wish, it's about the only time I would ever wish that I was actually older. I'm constantly wishing I was younger, but it's really the only time I wish I was a little older, because I just missed that. I mean, I remember the girls thinking early on, like in kindergarten, first grade, if I brought something KISS to school, they thought I was a weirdo, I remember Danny even saying, we're from small towns, So even Danny being older was still kind of made fun of. He was looked at as being weird for being a fan of the band because, there was probably 50 people in his high school, grade. Right. I graduated with 100 people or something like that.
Wow.
It's not a lot of people.
Wow, that's crazy.
But of course, I turned a lot of those people on later on, and
You've converted them, huh?
Well, not just that, but once Lick It Up and Animalize came out, people started going, "Oh, okay, right, I understand."
Yep.
So. And on the, if you mind, Mike,
on the
heels of what Jason said, the interesting thing, and I didn't really talk anything about KISS yet, is that when I was younger, it was at the height. I was 8 years old. And that was when KISS was at probably, right, 78, is that their biggest?
Yep.
You want to say, right?
Yeah.
And then as Mike was saying earlier, there was a period of time where we kind of disconnected because of school. But the cool thing about the KISS thing with me is that there was a resurgence in the mid-'80s. And it started with seeing Mike at the beach and him telling me, and this is how oblivious I was at the time, hey, did you know KISS took off their makeup? They did? Yeah, they came out with this album, Lick It Up. They did? Yeah. He goes, when you go home, why don't you come over to my house? Because at this point, we lived a block away, and I'll let you see the record. Of course, I got home, showered, I was over his house, and he showed me the Lick It Up cover. I was like, cool. You know, like that's how much I had disconnected the KISS cord.
Yeah.
Great.
From that moment on, I was like full in again. Animalized had just come out. I bought that. Then he remembers we used to go into the city, and I was going back and buying the first album and trying to get the version without kissing time and Love Gun with the gun inside. And we literally, Jason, I kid you not, we'd be talking casually as we were walking into the store. Then all of a sudden, one of us would sprint to the section and grab the records or go like this, because we were all in competition to get those original
I remember
records,
those days. Yeah.
You know? So there was that cool period where, as a kid, I collected these things. And one of the things I wanted to mention was the color forms. I know you said the rub and play thing, but the KISS color forms, I remember getting that, you know, and that was like the coolest thing. It was very limited what you could do with it, but having a KISS color form set was like the coolest thing. And then you showed a couple items there, those magazines. I remember, maybe you guys remember the Music Life magazines that were like the import. And I remember ordering them and then getting them for Christmas. At this point, I maybe was 16 years old, and getting them. They came from, I don't know, they came from Japan or whatever. Pictures you had never seen before.
Yeah.
And then I wound up getting, at that time, and I have them in my crawl space. You remember the Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley. I think Cream Magazine put out an issue of them just featuring each guy. Each one had their own issue. I have that, and just, you know, of course, the KISS comics, some other. But I did save my KISS-related magazines, because Mike could tell you, when I was younger or a teenager, I had every Cream magazine that was coming out, every Circus magazine. Faces was another one, Hit Parader. It would just come into my house every month. It was literally, I would get every magazine. But unfortunately, as 21, I was like, I don't need this crap anymore, and I threw them all away. Now I'm like... So upset
what was I thinking?
Right, exactly.
The value as a 20-year-old and the value as a 50-year-old is very different.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I just remembered that I had this sitting up here. Here's a Polaroid of my room in 1990.
That is awesome. So awesome.
So I'd have been 15, 14 probably. Can you make anything?
Yes,
out on that?
I can see. It looks like the comics. I see the puzzle, the Halloween mask. Yeah, that is.
There's a Bruce poster back there. That's how I know it's 1990. So.
No, yep.
Now, is that lunchbox the same lunchbox you have in back of you right now?
Oh no. No. This was part of all the stuff that I sold to Peter Arquette. Every one of these pieces went to Peter Arquette. Every single one of them.
Wow.
So does it break your heart when you look at that picture?
Yes. Makes me sick. And nothing. My collection now is far superior to what I had then. Even though at some point in time I've been telling the guys I want to do an episode on my old collection, because when I sold it, I had my girlfriend at the time. I would take box by box, because it was all boxed up, and I would just tell her what they were, what they were graded for, and what I think I should get out of them. So I have like 26 pages of handwritten notes by my ex-girlfriend of all of that KISS stuff. And what I did was I faxed it to Peter Arquette, Gary Kahn, and Frank Caraglio, and I had them all bid on it. And Peter Arquette was the highest bidder at a whopping $4,000.
Right. Wow.
But at that time, that was good money.
Well, it was 99.
Right.
So I certainly could have, if I'd have waited a couple of years for eBay to flourish, I probably could have made a lot more money. But yeah, all of that stuff. And again, I kept one copy of each of the original records that meant something to me. Anything that I had gotten personally autographed. And I kept a couple of favorite posters, and I kept that thing from Danny. Everything else I sold.
You sold. Right.
Ridiculous.
But you kept all your games, like you were showing before, right?
I've never got all my games. Yeah. I never got rid of my games. It was just the KISS stuff.
Similar to what happened with Jason, although I wasn't married, and when I think I was 19 or 20 years old, I was dead broke. I had no money. I owed money to credit. I didn't know that, use a credit card, got to pay the bill at the end of the month. I just pay when I want. No. And I remember, Mike, there was Caesar's Bay Bazaar.
Yep.
And there was the guy, or they had the baseball cards they would sell. They had the booth and stuff like that. I went there with my collection from a kid and sold off. And me and your brother used to collect cards at the time. And I had them in the binders and everything. I have some stuff, but all the good stuff I sold back then for like probably $250, which at that point I needed it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, I look back and I say, man, I wish I would have kept it, but I was in dire need at the time. I needed the money. So
right. Well, we were all younger.
It's like a part of you.
Right.
part of you is just gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just. I remember walking away and them seeing them put it like, yeah, all right, that's great. I was like, this one's fucked up. You know what I mean? It was like
Exactly.
devastating. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that stuff was stuff like the first collection of mine was the stuff that it was my original records.
Mm-hmm.
You know, except for Destroyer, I kept that for a specific reason. But all of the other records that I got in the early '80s,
They're gone.
all of it was my original stuff, and it wasn't valuable. I mean, some of it had a little value to it, but it wasn't like now this shit that I'm buying now that's stupid expensive that's valuable. But it was the stuff that I collected when I had no money and I was just a kid and I was mowing yards to buy. You know, I was getting $10 to mow a yard or something. I would go buy a new KISS record, or I would go, you know, buy the latest magazine, or I would get Goldmine magazine and I would order shit out of it, like a, you know, a comic book or something, or a puzzle, and it was stuff, you know, that nobody else had around me at the time, and I got rid of all of that stuff.
So, Jason, if you get one thing back, what would it be?
From my original collection?
Yeah, yep, from your
and
original.
This kind of leads into you, doesn't it?
And it doesn't even have to be a KISS thing, right? But if you get one thing back, what would it be?
One thing, anything back?
Yeah.
And it has to be one thing.
All right, I'll let you choose a KISS and a non-KISS. How about that? I'll make it a little easier, just a little easier on you.
That's a hard question. You put me on the spot here.
Now, just so you know, guys, at 8:30, we got to wrap this up because Jason and I we have a special therapy group that we attend. So make sure we get that done. Right. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
I would say my Creatures 8-track for KISS, because I still need a Creatures 8-track now.
Yep.
Wow.
And I don't want to pay $600 for one. I had 3 of those that I sold to people.
Wow.
3.
Oh, ouch.
So one of my Creatures 8-tracks, I could probably think of a more sentimental thing, but I have.
Now, that was only available from Columbia House probably at the time, right?
No, not Creatures. Creatures was the last properly released one.
Oh, it was the last
Lick It Up is the first one that was only available from Columbia House.
I learned something new every day.
In fact, it's tougher to find the Columbia House version of the Creatures 8-track. Much tougher than the standard label edition. Yeah. So same way with the Elder. It's much easier to find the one that was released from the label than it is to find the CRC. So, and then I don't know, probably my original. I have part of that. So that it's not all together, but you know, it's broken and everything. I have my original Voltron in a box, but it's all destroyed.
Right.
All right. My first He-Man figure, actually He-Man.
Yeah.
I'll say
that's cool. So. That's cool. What about you, Vin? If you get one thing back?
I know I've told you the story when we've talked about the Peter Criss solo album. How when I got the Peter Criss solo album, I remember that same year I got the Micronauts collection, or you know, it was like this ship that you put together, and I was down in my basement listening to the Peter Criss solo album, putting the stickers on whatever the ship was, and I just remember the box under the tree being, you know, quite, because you always like when you got up and you got out of bed and you looked at the biggest box, you know. I would just, you know, that because it has that KISS tie to it, you know. And in recent years, I flirted on eBay saying, should I get another one? And then I was just like, I don't know, you know. It's not my original. Where am I going to play? Mike knows I got so much crap in my house. Right. But
when you have 150 instruments, you have no room for anything else.
That's true. That's true. But probably that, and one of the other things that was cool, and I don't have it here unfortunately, was this game that came out I think in 1978. It was called Shoots Away. I don't know if you remember that one, Mike.
No, I don't.
It was basically, you look through a little telescope and you'd have like a little trigger, and the guys skydivers would fall onto a platter that turned, and you had to line it up so that they would fall into the turntable. Okay. And I don't remember that. I wanted it, and you know, you could Google this or YouTube Shoots Away, and I just remember the box being tremendous in the middle of the living room, and I knew I didn't even have to open it that was the Shoots Away.
Right. Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm changing my answer, Mike.
Go ahead, change.
I just thought of something, because that story reminded me of something. How I got there was there was a game that I had when I was a kid called Bop Bop and Rebop.
Okay.
And it was a little plastic game, and it spun, and you had 4 places on the outside of it that was almost like a hockey kind of game, and you had characters in them, and you slid them back and forth, and you would drop a little cylinder in it anyway, and it would spin it around, and you would try to block it from going in your thing.
Okay.
And if you could do that, you would win. And but anyway, I rebought that again at one point in time, but it reminded me of something that I have been looking for, and I don't have enough information left in my brain to be able to find what it was. But my dad used to read me. I used to have a book of short stories.
Okay.
It probably came out in the late 70s or early 80s. I don't remember what the cover looked like, because I even think the cover was ripped off of it by the time I remember. I can only remember one of the stories, and it had illustration for each story.
Okay.
Colored illustrations. And there was a story about a cat. And I just have no more information beyond that, but I can kind of see the picture of that illustration in my head. When my father passed away and I inherited my childhood home, the first thing I did when I started cleaning out was I went in the attic and I was looking through every box and I was looking for that book. And I'm sure it's been long thrown away. I could not find it. And I tell you, I went through everything. My dad was a pack rat.
Okay.
I remember he going through like his bill box, and he had every single water bill that, what he had. We had this house built for $17,000 in 1977, and he had every single water bill and the check that the canceled check that paid it.
Oh my God!
All in this thing. I can't. It hurt me to throw that stuff away, but anyway, I just knew he kept that book, and I can't find it.
Can't find it, and all you know is it's about a cat.
I just know that one story is it was a book of short stories for children, and I just don't know anything else about it than that. So.
Well, fortunate for you, Jason, it's line item number 155 on Mike's sheet. So he just has to look that up, and he'll get you that.
Oh man, I wish it was Jason, because I'd say there's the book. There you go, man. That's incredible.
I would probably break down in tears if I ever located that. But I just don't know.
Doesn't that drive you crazy though? You have such a fond and vivid memory of something, but because there are things like that too. For me, I remember similar to what Jason, and I'm just like, I just don't know exactly what that was, a book or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I
would say I was probably in the 3 to 4 year old range when he was reading to me out of it, and I can remember seeing it in the bottom of my closet and just kind of throwing it to the side when I was, a little older, 6, 7, 8, when it didn't mean anything to me anymore, where I was looking for my He-Man toys or something. I didn't But I don't have enough information in my brain to, and I tell you, I've laid in my bed for hours on my phone on vintage book databases, just searching for, children's short story books, 1970s, and just nothing. I've looked
about a cat.
I've looked at probably thousands of them, and there's probably thousands and hundreds of thousands of them. So I'm sure I'll never find it. But that's what I would get over all of that other stuff.
So if anybody out there that watches this has any pictures of books from the 70s about cats, send them to Jason. Help the guy out.
This is starting to feel a little familiar, which I think kind of leads to you, Mike.
So one thing, Vin, and I don't have it here to show, but as you were talking about us used to go into Manhattan to buy those records, right? One of the things, if you remember, Vin, I had bought in 1985 or 6, something like that, the first KISS album, a promo version of it, right? The white label with the...
Really?
Yes, and I bought it for $40. Okay, $40.
Which would have been expensive back then.
Of course, really, yes. But I thought it was cool. I'd never even heard that there was I didn't know at the time there was promo albums.
Sure.
So, and I had that in my collection until 2000, and then I sold it off. I sold it on eBay. And honestly, didn't think about it for years. And about 3 or 4 years ago, somebody posted a picture on one of the Facebook pages, and I knew the second I saw it that was my album from the 80s, because, Vin, if you remember this, the top of Ace's head was all scratched and scuffed up really bad, like there was no picture there, like this, it's like that big.
They obviously didn't like him.
And this guy posted the picture, and I'm like, holy crap, that's mine. So I messaged him. The guy's name is Chris. Right? Hey, Chris, by chance, do you know where you got that album from? Because I'm almost positive I bought that in the 80s in It's Only Rock and Roll in the Village of Manhattan. And he goes, yeah, I know exactly where I bought it from. I bought it from you. I have the eBay invoice still inside the album. I'm like, wow. Wow. So, and, I've asked him a few times if he'd ever be interested in selling it back. And he said, not at this point, because in fairness to him, he's owned it for 20 years. He's got a connection. But I just thought that was kind of cool. But I don't want to say that's where it started for me. But as I started off this episode, I was selling off all sorts of stuff over the last 5 to 10 years. But I realized that my childhood memory, so like you guys are okay to some degree getting replacements from stuff from your childhood, and I'm not, right? To me, all the stuff that I have now collects dust. If it's not the exact item I owned, I mean literally the exact piece that I owned as a kid, I'm not interested. So I'm just going to show a few things here, and then we'll get to the main stuff. So the first thing's not even a KISS related thing, but I think this is cool. It's my original baseball glove. Okay,
awesome.
I remember that.
And I always thought this was cool. And Jason, you'll get a kick out of this. Vin, you might remember this. The inside of the glove. Can you read what it says? It's probably hard.
Black Diamond.
Black Diamond. Yeah.
Nice.
So I thought as a kid, I was like, man, I got this for free. The first baseball league I joined, and I literally every baseball game I played in my life, I've worn this glove. Even as a 20-something-year-old, I crammed this thing in my hand, and I thought as a kid it was cool because it said Black Diamond inside the glove. I'm like, they got me a KISS glove, so I saw that, I thought it was cool. I'm like, I have to show that. But the stuff that means the most to me is the stuff from my childhood. And the first thing, it's going to be a lot of KISS things because I showed the football thing already. But here is my book, the KISS Love Gun songbook. Now, mind you, I didn't know how to, at 7 or 8 years old when I got this, I did not know how to play guitar, but my parents bought me a KISS guitar book. Okay, so of course, in fact, I have a picture of me opening this Christmas Day in 1978, sitting on the floor. So even though it's missing all the pictures except for one that comes out, I will keep that forever because, all right, that's from my childhood.
That's awesome.
It gets better than that. Here are the KISS dolls, the KISS dolls that I owned in the 70s that I got as Christmas gifts from my parents and my grandparents. Paul Stanley. Not bad condition considering that's mine from when I was 7 or 8 years old, right? Missing the armbands. That's okay, but overall in pretty good condition. A little rip in the back, but that's mine. I played with that when I was 8 years old, so that's near and dear. Now we're going to start to go downhill. Peter Criss.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah, that's mine, and I will never give that up. And people have offered to fix it for me, and I'm like, no, because then the rubber band inside wouldn't be the original rubber band. So broken arm. So that's
that far. You go that far.
Mark? Yeah. So wait, Jason, it gets worse.
He's hardcore.
You ready? You ready?
I'm ready.
I lost Gene Simmons, but I still have, I think, Ace Frehley. I think. Okay.
How does that even happen? Did you need a snack one night?
I have no idea. So again, over 20 years, I've had people offer to get me a new head, and I'm like,
sure.
I'm like, no, that's not the original head. That I would always know that's not the original head from my doll. People think I'm nuts. I've lost the boots.
So you rather stare at a stump?
Yeah. Well, you know what? At this point, I get a huge laugh out of the fact that that's what my Ace Frehley doll as a kid. Now, hold on, Vin. You the judge. Who's in worse condition, my Ace, my Peter, or his Destroyer album?
Oh, Destroyer album. I've never seen any article of anything be in worse condition than.
I don't know. I think his Peter has me beat. I think the Peter Criss has me beat. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
There's not a joint one in there that's still good.
No, that's not.
That's true.
There's not. At least this one, the joints are pretty good. It's just missing the head. But I got a kick out of it. But I love the fact that these are mine, and I've had over the years mint condition ones, and I've sold them off. It didn't mean anything to me. I was like, whatever. I bought these. I'll sell them. I'll never sell these for the rest of my life. They will stay with me. Maybe I'll get buried with them. That's how they're near and dear to my heart. So, Vin, I'll show this. And this came up on one of the pages this week. You might remember this, Vin. Not many people have these, right? So have you ever seen this before, Jason?
Not in a box.
Yeah. So
Did you get that? Did you get that? Oh no, you.
Yeah.
I don't want to steal it from you, but I think I know what you.
No, yes, I did get it in It's Only Rock and Roll, right? That's what you're gonna ask. Yes.
I remember. I was with you when you got it.
Fantastic.
So this is when Vin and I were talking about before going to the city, Manhattan, and looking for records. It's Only Rock and Roll in Manhattan was like the place to get like anything collectible at the time. And they had these clocks. And I think, Vin, did you buy a Gene Simmons one at the time? Do I remember that right? No, okay.
No.
So I bought the Ace Frehley, right? And this hung in my bedroom outside of the box for 15 years. And then when I got married, I put it in the box. It's missing the top or whatever a little bit. But somebody just posted one not in the box on one of these pages maybe a week ago or less. And people were giving the guy crap. Oh, that's a fake. That's a fake. And I said, nah. I'm not saying it's a coin item, but it's not a fake. It's you could have got them in Meatloaf, Heart, Star Wars, Donna Summer. So I've never seen another one in the box all these years, but somehow this is again mine from the early '80s. Mine.
That's amazing.
Right?
It's amazing.
And one of the things I want to just quickly mention.
Go
Give
ahead.
me 30 seconds, Mike.
Take as much time as you want.
It's only rock and roll was very big in our teenage years.
Yes.
And going back to, I just triggered my memory when Mike was talking about that. First Kiss album promo copy. Well, there's a great story behind this.
That's good.
You know, Jason, to what I was saying before, we would actually dive into the bins. We both knew that this album was there, but for some reason at that time, because it was $40, we didn't have $40.
Right.
And so we were like, I think Mike had said like, "Oh, I'm going to go back and get it." But I'm thinking in my mind, oh, no, you're not. I'm going to go back and you're not going to know it. So the next day, I don't tell him. And I think I'm freaking cool going into It's Only Rock and Roll. I go to it. I'm like looking through the bin, and it's gone. He couldn't make it there the next day because he had to work or something. He sent our other friend, Sal, to get it before me. Man, did I feel like an ass. Because I went, you had a... trying to be cool. Kiss. Oh yeah, this big kid came in and bought it. I was like, and they actually like commissioned one of our friends to go get it and snatch it out in front of me. Yeah. That's how competitive we were.
Wow.
Yes.
And to the point, Jason, this is how bad it was. We were really tight, Mike and I, at that time. But if Kiss came out with a new product, I don't know, let's say they came out with Crazy Nights at the time. And he knew that I wanted one, he would only buy one or get one. He wouldn't say like, oh, let me get my buddy one because I could get in advance. Because sometimes his mom would hook him up with this one record dealer, and he might get a couple days earlier. Remember that, Mike?
Yes, indeed.
He would never hook. And the same thing when Smashes Thrashes came out. I was at J&R Music World, and I bought one. He goes, well, I didn't know this was coming out or something. I don't think he even knew it was coming. Yeah. Think I got one from him? No, it was like this weird competitive thing. Like we wanted to have it first.
Yes,
type of
100. Awesome. Yes, 100%. So I've since changed. If he wants something, and I'll go and I'll buy two. But I was 15 years old. I was 15 years old. And there was no eBay, so his first one to the store gets it.
That's right.
So all right. So then, like I said, I started selling off my items 5 years ago, and I'll just show one or two things here before we get to the big items. So the one thing I remembered right off the top selling, my first regret, was I sold my Animalized t-shirt that I had as a kid. The Animalized tour was the third Kiss concert I ever saw, fourth overall. I saw Ozzy in between. My dad bought me the shirt. And about 10 years ago, I was going on the cruise, and somebody was making really cool, like Hawaiian-type shirts. And he said, Al, you could trade any t-shirt that you have for the Hawaiian shirt. So I said, oh, yeah, here, I have all these shirts that I don't fit into anymore. And he said, I'll take the Animalized shirt. And I traded it to him. I was happy. And like 2 years later, I'm like, my dad bought me that, and I shouldn't have done that.
You didn't even stop for a second? And say,
no, at that time, I wasn't into nostalgia. I was like, whatever, this is like a size extra small. I'm like a 3XL, and there's no chance of me wearing this, right? So, so I sold it. I traded it to him. And then about a year later, I was like, my dad bought me that. I shouldn't have done that. And he wasn't, at least that I knew of, on any of the other cruises after that. But I remembered his name. And after about 2 years of thinking about it, I messaged him. And I was like, his name is Newland, I think is the way to pronounce it. Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but I think it's Newland. And I messaged him and I said, hey, a deal is a deal. But by chance, do you still have that shirt? Because if you do, I'll gladly trade you something of better value to have the shirt back. He's like, oh yeah, I have it. It's all in a bag or whatever, and it's way too small to even wear. If you're interested, I'll trade it back. So I even kept the packaging when he mailed it back to me.
Oh my gosh.
And you could see on the bottom, it says, could you see? Am I in the right spot? Indonesia? Can you see it?
Yeah, block it.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to show his address, right? But it says Indonesia, right? So my shirt came back to me, my childhood shirt, which I still keep in this bag because I just think it's part of this great story. But there is my original, all folded up still, Animalized shirt that I bought at the Nassau Coliseum, that traveled the world and lived in Indonesia for like 4 or 5 years until I got it back. And that was the first thing that I was like, you know what? I made a mistake selling some of these things. I'm not going to show the second thing, though, but I'll tell the story really quick. About 6 months, well, again, about 5 years ago, I sold off a lot of my posters, and I had a Rock and Roll Over promo poster from '76. Okay, one of those long ones. It's got, and I'll put a picture up here for anybody. The blue one, yep, with the album at the end. And I had somebody given that to me in like 76, 77. I had cut it up. I had the logo was separate from the album cover, but I sold it, okay?
My heart.
And that, yes, I know, right? Right. But that one, I was like, I don't even know who I sold it to. I don't remember if I sold it on eBay, Facebook. I didn't even try to get it. Well, about 6 months ago, somebody posted on one of the Facebook pages, hey, does anybody have this poster? And they post a picture of his own. And then underneath, people start saying, yeah, I have it. And all of a sudden, I see one of them, yeah, I have it. And he posts a picture. I'm like, that's mine. That's mine. I know that one's mine. I remember where it's cut. I remember where it's, the K had a rip in it. And I messaged the guy, and he did, it's in now. I have it here in the house, and it's in a portfolio, but I got that back. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And it was really cool. And I appreciate it. He doesn't want me to say his name, so I'm not going to, but I appreciate it. He was really kind to give it back to me. But Jason, I'll get to the main part, right? So we know, right? So I've lived with this regret for a few years now of selling off these childhood items, and I refuse to get replacements. And one of the items I sold off was a KISS mirror I had. And you just did a great episode on your show about KISS mirrors that I'm just going to plug for a moment. You're John 5 on it, and you guys did great. Anybody who's into KISS mirrors and KISS collectibles, check out the episode. It's my favorite because Jason mentioned me for a moment. Okay, but yes, but it was a great episode about KISS mirrors, right? So go check that out if you haven't seen it. But I've been searching for this KISS mirror that I sold over 6 years ago at this point for at least the last couple of years. And every 3 months or so, all over Facebook, I would post looking for this mirror. And let me see, I have a picture. Now, this is just a printout, right? But I have a picture of myself. I cut myself off right now, but I'll put the real picture on the post, right? But that's me in my bedroom, and you can see circles over there. That's the mirror, right? And I had taken good pictures of the mirror when I sold it. And I knew that there were certain scuff marks on it. I knew that, the frame in one spot was separated. There was a scratch on the frame, a certain spot. I highlighted a couple of things that I knew would show that it was mine. And I was every 3 months, hey, do you have, does anybody have this? All I knew is I sold it to somebody in Australia. And I knew that person sold it to somebody else. And that's all I knew. Right? I believed it was in Australia, but I had no clue. So every 3 months, I'd be posting online. If anybody has this mirror, and I'd post the picture that I took when I sold it, contact me. And it was silence, 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 silence. And Vin, I think you said to me at one point, you realize you're looking for one person on the entire planet Earth, and you don't know who it is? Yep. And when you said that, I'm like, yeah, I'm never getting this mirror back. Never. One thing that happened about 9 months ago, and I want to give this guy credit, is one of the times I posted it, actually on your page, Jason, somebody contacted me and said, hey, Mike, I don't have your mirror, but I have the exact same mirror, but it's not yours. And his name is Al Odin. And I said, Al, that's really nice of you, but I'm only interested in mine. Like I said before, I don't want, something like it. I want mine. And he's like, but why don't you take it from me, and then you could use that as trade bait? And I'd never thought of that. And he was the one that suggested that to me. He goes, yeah, I'll sell it to you. And he was very, very, very fair with me about the price. Too fair, okay? He's like, I know how hard you're looking for this. So like, Al, thanks a lot. I'm going to hold on to it, and hopefully one day I could use it as trade bait. Well, right after I got my poster that I was just referring to, the Rock and Roll Over poster, Vin and I are on the phone. He's like, oh, when are you going to try for the mirror again? And I'm like, I'm going to post, but it's a lost cause. And right after the new year, right around the new year, I posted again on your page and others. And somebody from your page contacts me. Mike, I have your mirror. And he sends me a picture. And I know instantly it's mine. And he also posted on your page, Jason, hey, Mike, I have your mirror. And he posted a picture. And I felt horrible for the guy. His name is Matt. And people started giving him a hard time. That's not Mike's mirror. I could tell there's differences. And I was like, guys, time out. Stop. That is my mirror. I know it is because, again, I didn't post that I knew it was in Australia, that, this guy lived in Melbourne. I didn't post about a scratch in a certain spot on the frame that I knew where the scratch was, and that scratch was perfect. Somebody, if they wanted to try to match all this up, would have had to spend years while also living in Australia. I mean, it made no sense. There was no doubt in my mind, and I knew when I saw the back, it was also mine, even though I had nothing written. I knew. And about 4 or 5 days ago, it showed up in my house, okay?
Wow.
And I get, I'm trembling right now as I hold it, right? Because I'm like, I'm going to drop it. Exactly.
Oh my gosh,
I'm going to drop it. So the guy's name is Matt Madge, I think is the way you pronounce his last name. And I told him I would gladly trade my mirror for his mirror, and I offered $100, right, extra. The guy, Matt, bless his soul, super nice guy. He's like, Mike, I don't want your money. This means a lot to you. I was like, yeah, it does. My grandfather, either I won it with money he gave me at a festival, or he won it and gave it to me. But I remember getting that. My grandfather has since passed. My godfather. Sorry, I misspoke. My godfather. My godfather has since passed away. And he's like, I know how much this means to you. I want you to have it. I don't want your money. Just send the replacement mirror. And I've offered as recently as 2 days ago. And he's like, Mike, stop. I don't want your money. I was like, well, let me pay the shipping, Matt. He's like, no. So, Matt, if you're watching this, I have to say thank you. And Jason, your page played a role that I never thought that I would ever get this thing back. Like Vince said, one person on the entire planet.
You found him.
And with your help.
And Kiss My Kollectibles.
Yes.
Hey, man, all I did was create a place for people to come together.
Yes.
And there's 11,000 of us there.
There is. And it blows my mind still that's back in my
amazing.
collection. And that's kind of what led me to want to do this, because it's like, as I get older, these things mean a lot. And, I showed this picture. Again, it's just, I printed it really quick. And you can see the mirror here. I sold that mirror also. I have no idea where that mirror went. But I have, in a picture frame over here, a Kiss mirror. A picture frame over here. Down here, I have an Ace Frehley in a frame. And I actually still have those things. So my intention here is to recreate. I only took one out, right? But I have the other ones also. My intention is to maybe recreate that wall in my adult house now.
I was just gonna say,
Yes.
we got to find that other Kiss mirror now. I mean, come on.
So,
what do you mean? I mean,
I know I sold that Kiss mirror in 2015 also. I sold them within weeks apart of each other. There's no distinguishing qualities about it that I can say, yes, that one's mine. I would have to literally have somebody contact me and say, hey, Mike, here's the proof or whatever. Like the guy with the album that said, here, I have the invoice from it. Right. For me to try to find it, that one I haven't even tried. I've basically given up. But everything else from that wall I have.
You know what I always tell you? I don't like your attitude on this. I don't like your attitude. This is not, you know what I mean? You got someone like Jason who's got a forum to help you as it obviously worked.
Yeah.
What not go for this one now?
I don't even know how to say to tell that it's mine, other than, hey, did you buy this mirror from me?
Where did you sell it? I mean, you have no idea?
I don't know. I
Do
posted
you still
it.
have photos like you had of the other one?
Yes, I do.
So when you look at that, you can't tell any distinguishing marks at all.
Nothing that strikes out at me now. No.
What other possible forums could you have possibly sold it on? eBay? A Facebook group? I mean, what else could it have been? You don't.
No, that would have been it. That would have been it.
Emails or tracking of something?
No, I looked through my old Messenger messages. I looked through my emails. It just. It was before I kept my life spreadsheet, so I have no trace. I have no tracking of it. But
October.
That's right.
2015. I sold my Kiss mirror.
No, but to me, and that's kind of what set the wheels in motion to do this episode. Is again, as I've gotten older, these things Peter Criss, the legs and the missing arm, they become so important to me, so much more than, at least for me, having something just sitting on a shelf that I bought on eBay in 2007.
Sure.
That to me, this is what it's all about. And to me, it's exciting to see and talk about with you guys different things that are near and dear, like Jason, you showing the figures and you guys going back and forth with the games. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. I remember playing Asteroids or whatever. And to me, as we get older, that's really what collecting is all about, is collecting memories as I get older. That's the big thing.
One of the things I just want to say on the heels of what you said, because I don't disagree with you as far as like having the original items.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, something like this is still a connection to my childhood.
And I totally get that.
If it's not mine and it's in my hands, hearing the sounds, it still gives you that great warm feeling inside of like, wow, I remember when this was a big deal. And this was big technology.
Yes.
So, yes, it's not my original, but it still holds a lot of value to me. I would love to have my originals.
1,000%.
As we've gone through the episode and I've seen, the different degrees, like I'm showing Voltron, this is clearly not my original one. And it's not original to the period. And then Vincent has his, it's not his original one, but it's original to the period.
Right.
And Mike is like all of the above, right? So it's made me think. I approached it a little bit, maybe not the exact way I should have approached it, because I could have brought what's left of my original Voltron that I had when I was a kid. I could have brought in here the Pinewood Derby car that I made when you showed your car, Vincent, because I was like, oh my God, I made a Pinewood Derby car, cut it out of wood, and put wheels on it, and I've still got all of those little things, and I should have. Part 2, I guess.
Well,
I think I smell another episode.
Yeah, but to me, what's cool is there's no right or wrong answer with this, right? So, we showed all different types of things that were original to the era, things that were reproduction, and things that we had from our childhood, and it's all valid. It's all what makes the collector happy, right? So, for me, I'd much rather have Headless Ace, right? Sure. If somebody said to me, Mike, I'll trade you a mint in box from '78 Ace Frehley doll for yours, and I'd say no, right? Even though that might be worth $800, $1,000, whatever it's worth, right? Sure. This has more sentimental value to me. I think it's Ace. I think it's Ace. So one other thing I had here, and I told Vin I might show this, and I have to. Right, so I have always hanging on the wall here all these guitars, and Vin, I bust your chops. You have 150 instruments. Vin, do you remember this?
Yeah.
Right, so this is the guitar I had as a kid. Okay, I thought it was the coolest thing because it reminded me of Paul Stanley's guitar. Okay, I still to this day can't play a note on it, but damn, I'll never. In fact, I think the strings might be from 1987 or 1988. I have to get it.
Look at the action on that thing.
Yeah. I know. And Jason, let me tell you something. When he used to play that was an assault with a musical weapon.
It was
brutal.
It's so funny that you bring that, because I play guitar too. I'm actually a drummer. Okay. And I played drums since I was 5. But I started playing guitar too, and my dad played guitar, and I started playing in a band when I was like in the 8th grade, and with some other kids that could play guitar, and I got a guitar. I wanted to learn how to play guitar properly, and I've owned probably 20 guitars since then. I probably have 10 or 12 here now, but somebody gave this to me, a kid that lived down the street that was older than me. He was like, my parents bought this for me, and I'm never going to play it, and I see you're playing a junky guitar. And so I did get this out to show on the show, but this is an old junker guitar. But I've had the frets replaced in this because I've played it so much. I actually fixed this, what was probably a $50 guitar at the time, but here's what I learned how to play guitar on. It's my Carlos acoustic.
Very nice.
Carlos.
Wow.
But I love it. It's a drop D. So.
Oh, nice.
At least yours is in. Hey, ready? If I strum mine. There's nothing that's even remotely in tune about that, okay?
And Jason, that sound is an improvement from what I used to hear in about 86.
But Jason, here, look, I don't know if you can see the headstock there. Do you see what brand that is?
It's an Arbor.
It's an Arbor. So that was always a running joke between Vin and I because I won this on the Jersey Shore. Okay? Oh, wow. And I was so excited when I won this. I'm going to learn how to play guitar. I'm going to be in a band. Never happened. Okay? But they made fun of me that it was an arbor because in 85 or so when I won this, nobody had an arbor, right? But I just thought it looked cool, and that's all that mattered to me. And then Dana Strum was playing arbor basses in Slaughter, and I was so excited. It validated the guitar that I had. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's
every
awesome.
time I see Dana Strum and I think his name, I'm like, dude, you don't know how much you validated my existence back in the late 80s. Forget the fact that I still to this day can't play it. I will keep that forever. It's out. It sits in my room. In fact, Vin was like, you got to take one of those guitars behind you down and hang up yours. So I might have to do that one day.
Or put it up. Let me be clear. Right. Or just put it up.
Right.
You know.
Put it up somewhere right now.
Send me a picture. It was like between a bookcase. I'm like, whoa. You're desecrating it. Put it up on the wall. Give it the honor it deserves.
Right. And it's between a bookcase because, like I said, I never learned how to play guitar. I went to 3 lessons, and Vinny and I jammed a few times together. First band with Vin, that's right. But you ready for this? This is almost embarrassing. I never bought a guitar case. So if I go somewhere, I'd like carry it around by the neck.
Exactly. I'd be on my front stoop, Jason. He'd be walking down the street. I'd be like, oh my God, he's walking down.
I'd be walking down the block with
and he goes, what is your friend? Like, people on my block is like, why is he walking cable around?
Yeah, but I kept it all these years.
Let me just dress it up a little bit more for you, Jason. That would have cut off midriff shirt. Short. Imagine this sight coming down the street.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah, probably my cut off David Lee Roth T-shirt with the cut off sleeves. I thought it was the coolest. I was the coolest guy on the planet who did not know how to play a single note on guitar. But anyway, so that's
hilarious.
And I told Vin, and I'm going to think about this, but I'll tell you guys this, and it'll air. I actually have a picture of my 15-year-old self right after I won that guitar. The guitar around my neck, and I'm so proud. And I'm wearing no shirt, Richard Simmons shorts. Okay, it's embarrassing. And I have this like.
Are you gonna put this up on this thing? Come on,
I have to think about it. And I have this little mustache and I weighed about 105 pounds. At 15 years old, okay, you could practically see through me. I was so thin. It's just hilarious. But I see the guitar, and it just brings back the memories for me. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to mention that last thing. But
that's great.
That to me is all about childhood memories. I'll be interested and excited to hear what other people, after they watch this, what childhood memories they have. Because like you started off at the beginning, Jason, saying we're a little bit different in age. We have different memories that we attach to. Somebody who's 30 might have a different thing that connects with them compared to somebody who's 50 compared to somebody who's in their 60s. So I'll be curious to see. It doesn't have to be KISS. Doesn't even have to be music, right? You saw games and figures or whatever somebody attaches to. I'm really curious to see what other people kind of hold near and dear from their childhoods. So,
yeah, and most importantly, if anybody knows any book that has a story about a cat.
That's right. And not Peter Criss books, not that kind of cat.
Yes.
Right. Any cat books.
I can see it's a black cat, and it's night, and I don't know, I can't remember if he's scared and he's running, and there may be a house over it. I can't remember.
Is it hardcover, soft cover?
I think it was probably soft cover, but like I said, from what I remember, the cover was ripped off of it.
Right.
So it was probably soft cover, and I know it had a bunch of short stories in it, and I just don't remember anything else. So there are your clues. Go.
There it is.
And I'll give you 24 hours.
It doesn't have to be the original one. I'm sure that's in a landfill somewhere. Right. I would take a replacement copy of this. So
we're open to any and all suggestions for Jason. The cat book.
Absolutely.
The cat book. Well, guys, this was for me a ton of fun. Right, a ton of fun. I love thinking back to childhood. I love hearing these memories. I'm going to thank you both for joining me today, Jason. Your podcast, Kiss My Collectibles. Everybody, I was already checking it out, but anybody watching this who doesn't, check it out. A great show about Kiss Collectibles. You want to say anything else about your show, Jason?
No, it's just just search YouTube, Kiss My Collectibles with a K, or you can go to kissmycollectibles.com, and there's links and all of that stuff. And if you want to join our Facebook groups, we've got Kiss My Collectibles, which is all Kiss merchandise, and then there's Kiss My Wax, which is only Kiss vinyl. So, and that's what we do.
And you sounded like Gene Simmons there. Kiss Collectibles with a K. All you had to say at the end is, and if you for $19.99, you can.
And
we'll get you coming and going.
That's it. And it does it for the fans. fans.
That's right. That's right. Doing it for the fans. That's right. And Vin, I know I'll help you plug your thing as well here, right? So you just put out an EP a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was, right? And you recorded some songs with the guys from Ace Frehley's band and Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake and Eric Levy from Night Ranger. So it's a great collection of melodic rock songs. So anybody who hasn't checked that out, Vincent's Before the Storm CD, I strongly encourage you guys to check it out. A bunch of great artists on there with him. So,
Thank you.
and now I'm going to go and stare at my mirror for the rest of the evening. So thank you guys. This has been a blast. So take it easy, everybody. Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank both Jason and Vincent for joining me on this really fun episode. We look forward to hearing all of your comments of what items, KISS or non-KISS related, that you guys relate to your childhood, and if you still have them in your collections, and if there was any regrets of anything that you threw away or sold. We really look forward to all of your comments. I'll also ask if anybody out there has any ideas or any leads on Jason's Black Cat book, shoot me a message or shoot Jason a message. I'd love to help him find that. It sounds like a really important piece of his childhood. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Before we go, I just thought I'd share with you a little extra bonus footage. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time. Alrighty, we've all heard the stories. My childhood KISS mirror. Here is the package. Ta-da! Straight from Australia. Gotta say thanks to Matt. I'm excited to open this. Small little dents in the box here. One, another one here. But this is packed solid. Certainly I can't imagine that it would have been damaged in shipping because this is packed really well, but let's see. Long time I've been looking for this. I'm nervous. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. Let's see. Let's see. Cut this side. Alright. Wow, you've got it. Check this out. Wood in here to protect it. That is some job packing that. Wow. There it is. There it is. Looks to be in excellent condition still. Amazing. Simply amazing. There it is. Check it out. How friggin' awesome is that? Back in my hands after 6-7 years. I had this one since I was a kid, this exact one. How do I know it's the exact one? You can see over there in the logo some imperfections. I had a picture of it with those exact imperfections in it. Pretty friggin' cool. Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt.